Hi guys, look, I want to do a brief video on something that I really need to be clarified and to be fixed as soon as possible. This is for all students worldwide. Take a good look at this because you may be making some minor mistakes which are going to lead to really very difficult problems to fix later on, and one of them is just knowing how to punch correctly. Okay, so I'm going to go through what we do for a white belt grading, and you'll kind of get an idea that the structure of that is designed to give you good punching protocols. So firstly, we talk about being in a neutral stance. This is not a fighting stance. Get that right, you just got to get that right in your head. But I'm still gripping the floor and I'm still tilting my pelvis. What I'm really using this stance for is to identify my center line, to keep an eye on my shoulder girdle, that it's not dipping or falling around, and to keep an eye on my hand placement in the center line to make sure there's no gaps like that. You see this sort of thing happening, and that's just, it's poor punching discipline. The point of this stance is to simply identify with your center line so you get it perfect, right? So I can get that punch traveling, it drops slightly as the second punch travels over and occupies that path. I don't want to have this happening. That's terrible. It's got to be driving forward. So it's got to be like a piston, the lead hand dropping slightly out of the way. So that's what that neutral stance is for. It's to really square away just the shape and structure and the refinement of hand placement in the punch itself. Then after that's tidied up, and it's got to be tight, I don't want to see any gaps. That hand literally skims across the top of the lead hand so that it's minimal gappage, and it floats back to the elbow. It doesn't come to the chest, it comes back to the elbow so that it's already ready to fire. Okay, then after that, you move into a front stance. Here's where things start to get a bit more tricky. And this is where I find most people just completely don't get it. You've got to be punching exactly the same through that center line, but I'm now moving my shoulder girdle, okay, so that it's starting to rotate, my core is rotating with my shoulder girdle. And that means there's going to be a slight lift on the rear heel, and that's acceptable. And when you do that, you can see how it's transferring weight onto the outside of that foot. That's fine, I can harness that. If I'm just standing there flat-footed punching, really what is it? It's just a shoulder punch, it's nothing, it's rubbish, okay? So you want to start seeing the belt moving, swaying from side to side as that hip starts to rotate and the shoulder girdle starting to move. I'm exaggerating it, but that's what's happening, a smaller version of that. And then we put all together in a package where you step out onto the ball of the foot. And so as your weight lands, that's called a falling step. That generates force. I harness that force and transfer it into the punch. So there's where the power comes from, the first punch. Then I bring my back foot up and I rotate aggressively, and that drives my hip through, which is aggressive core rotation, a lot of shoulder rotation, and the punch starts to look like something. Because the physics of punching never changes. It doesn't matter what discipline you do, Kyokushin, Shotokan, Taekwondo, Karate, boxing, doesn't matter. It's grounded mass, so I've got to be hunkered down. It's aggressive core rotation, and that's where most people don't take that on board. They think a little bit of hip rotation is enough. No, it's got to be aggressive. You've got to be really driving through. Not to the extreme of a javelin thrower, but if you look at a shot putter or a javelin thrower, you can see how much the core rotation plays a part in the delivery of force. So you need to be harnessing that same thing. So you step out, bring the back foot up, you never leave it behind you. You've got grounded mass now, but I've used up, there's no core rotation there. I can't really move my hip that much. So you've got to bring it up equidistant to how far you stepped on the front foot. And then boom, and you can see straight away how much more rotation I can get out of that hip. So that's where the power comes from the second punch, which you'll find is usually more powerful than the first because it's got that massive amount of rotation. And then you'll notice that the back foot is up and the weight is transferred slightly onto my front foot to the outside ever so slightly. So I then harness that and finish the punching set off. So there's a lot happening that you can't see if you don't know what to look for. And you could be doing it in the mirror or videotaping it and going like, yeah, that looks right. But if you're not addressing what I've just discussed, you know, it's really, you're just kind of going through the motions of it. It's got to be step off and plant, back foot comes up, aggressive core rotation, and then pivot again, and then step back. You know, and if you're not getting anywhere near that kind of rotation or that transference of weight or core rotation, then you're going to do yourself a disservice. All right, so that is correct Wing Chun punching protocols. The physics are this: grounded mass, aggressive core rotation, hand speed. You've got to always be trying to improve your hand speed, and there's plenty of ways I've shown you how to do that. And then on impact, density. Make sure you see a lot of Wing Chun guys throwing punches with their hands really soft and open. And that's just, you know, what is that? You know, you can't hit someone like that. So you've got to learn how to snap it at the end so that when you punch, it's relaxed. It's still got good shape, but it's not tense. And then on impact, just as I make impact, I tighten the fist up so that I create density, which will lead to transference of force. I want everybody on board sending me some videos of their punching. I just want to fix that. Once we fix that, I can fix the next thing, okay? And I'd like everybody in the university that's training online to be graded before the end of the year, okay? So we're going to put a grading special on where the cost will be reduced to encourage people to pull their finger out and get themselves in order. Right, I'm grading guys right now. I've just graded a blue belt in BJJ online. I've graded a brown belt, Jared, in New Zealand online, and great result. And the belt's in the mail, and so is the certificate. So if you want to get on board, get graded before the end of the year, get some motivation happening, and send me stuff. Put in a grading application, and let me know what I'm working with, okay? All right, thanks guys.